started. I'm Tom Hackley, and I'm a member of the coordinating committee for KCCC, um, and also active in the climate conversations subcommittee, which is why I'm sitting here. Uh, the Climate Conversations is a monthly presentation by Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. We try to bring in topics and people of interest to educate our affiliates and our members. Today's topic is covering something that has actually financial value to a lot of you, if you should pursue it. So I hope you'll pay close attention. The topic is elective pay, which is an IRS program that did not get axed by the federal government. It got modified a little bit, but it's still in effect. So the state has encouraged different regions of the state to reach out and let people know that the program is available and to assist in going through the steps that you need to go through. Our presenter today will be Jenny Doezema, our executive director, and Carly Thompson. Carly is also a member of our staff. So thank you all for coming. I see, a lot of faces and names that I believe represent nonprofit organizations that are interested in our topic. And that's very encouraging. This is the first of what will probably be several presentations around the 7-county area of Southwest Michigan that we are charged to reach out to. So with that said, I will introduce Jenny Doezema, our executive director, and the person who's carrying the torch forward on the elective pay program. Jenny, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. All right, let me share my screen here, folks. And while I do that, I'll say for newcomers, I know you expected to see Stephanie today, and Stephanie couldn't be with us today, so I'm doing the presentation in her stead. She can often be more exciting than me, so bear with me. I said this earlier, I know close to as much as Stephanie does about our elective pay program, but she's our elective pay ambassador. So if there are questions that I can't answer, then I will certainly follow up and answer them later. And then Carly is also tag teaming with me to help answer questions today. On that note, please go ahead and drop questions in the chat as we go, and our team here will follow that chat. And then there'll also be time afterwards to answer questions or ask more questions. We are the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. This work fits really squarely into our mission. So it's not something we set out intending to do, but our mission is to mobilize collective action to achieve immediate and drastic reductions in greenhouse gas emissions and rapid adoption of renewable energy through a transition grounded in social, racial, economic, and environmental justice. Sometimes I read that a little extra at things because I really feel proud of the mission. The elective pay stuff is hitting home at both the greenhouse gas reduction and bringing renewable energy to our region. Building our affiliate network. These are all our programs. So building our affiliate network, collective reimagining through collaboration and dreaming with diverse partnerships across Kalamazoo. The Ardea Youth Climate Coalition, many of you know about. If you don't know about, we support a group of high school students every year, 9th through 12th graders. If they enter in 9th grade, they can continue with us for all 4 years of their high school, learning about climate and then supporting them in their efforts to spread climate advocacy and education among their peers and the rest of our community. Proud of that program. Climate Conversations is where you are right now, focused on education and advocacy and lifting up the work that's happening in our area. Climate Ready Homes is our newest and biggest project right now, and that is focused on greenhouse gas reduction, justice, and renewable energy transition. We have finished our first home in collaboration with Community Homeworks, doing energy efficiency upgrades to that home for a family in the East Side neighborhood. And we are on to the next. That work is focused on reducing energy use, making families' monthly bills more affordable, in the big picture, preparing homes to be able to eventually have rooftop solar or be connected to solar power. And then the last is the countywide climate justice plan. So KC3 has been a leader in the work of helping the county create a climate justice plan, and that plan is now in draft form. We hope to see you all at one at least of our feedback sessions where we are collecting input on that draft before we put the draft into action. And those dates are not all planned yet, but there will be one at the Foodway Symposium, as you heard a moment ago. The elective pay, so this is a program where KC3 is working to keep money in your organization when you elect to implement clean energy projects through a tax credit. It's a tax credit, but it's for organizations that don't pay taxes. So sometimes the words tax credit can be confusing for folks. Also called direct pay. The real IRS word for that is elective pay. That's what we're going to talk about today. So this is kind of our agenda for this hour. We're going to go through what elective pay is, so eligible tax credits, calculating your credit, changes to the investment tax credit after the One Big Lovely Beautiful Bill Act, and then the process, and then there'll be time for question and discussion. These are things that we need to say to you. We're not tax folks, we're not experts, so this is not tax guidance. What we're going to share with you today relies on simplifications and generalizations. And then all the information is based on the best information we have today during this presentation. And that last one is because things have been and do change fast around this stuff this year. So last year and this year. Okay, so what is it? We are supporting a statewide effort. KC3 is an ambassador for the elective pay program, and we are supporting Region 8. And Region 8 includes Van Buren County, Kalamazoo County, Calhoun County, Berrien County, Cass County, St. Joe County, and Branch County. It's Region 8, it's pretty much Southwest Michigan. And we are supporting organizations in getting federal incentives for solar and other clean energy projects, which can help an organization get up to a 30% reimbursement for project costs. There's a lot of complexity in there, and that's what we're going to help you work on understanding today. This is a short-term sprint. That is why the state of Michigan has hired ambassadors around the state, is to try and get as many projects eligible and accessing that elective pay credit in the time frame that we have available. So this really targets projects that are so these are not the eligible project dates. These are the dates that the elective pay ambassadors are like really working hard to try and connect to new projects. November 2025 is when we started. And then there's some June deadlines that we'll talk about in a minute that like we really want to get all the projects. We want to know about all the projects and start applying for the tax credit for those projects by June. With a focus on eligible entities to provide you with the support you need to be able to take advantage of this credit. And down at the bottom of the screen there's a couple additional resources, including the Michigan Elective Pay website. So there's a lot of information there, and you can see who else is doing this around the state. There's recordings on the state website and case studies on the state website of things that are happening already. And then Lawyers for Good Government is an organization that is supporting nonprofits that are doing climate work in many, many ways and other work around the country. And they also have some resources and support for the elective pay work. Okay. I covered that already. So the official term is elective pay, but you might hear direct pay used interchangeably. And this is an incentive for tax exempt entities, which are investing in clean energy. And it was created by the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022, and it's one of the things that was not canceled in the sweep of cancellation to IRA programs. It allows entities with no federal tax liability to make use of the federal tax credit for the first time. So prior to this, you could only get a tax incentive if you paid taxes. And there was some advocacy uh, um, at the federal level about that, because that means that all of our nonprofits who really are, lower income earners anyway, who are working really hard to put projects like this into action, couldn't take advantage of those incentives. So this was a way to create an incentive for all of those organizations who don't pay taxes. So, and we can talk more about who those organizations are. We'll go over that in a minute. And the result is that you get a check for up to 30% of the cost of your project. So if you do a project that costs $100,000, you might be able to get $30,000 back cash in a check for that project through this program. And this can combine with other grant funds, loans, and other types of funding. That piece of it is the combination of other funds is really, it's a little complicated and very dependent on what those funds are, what your project is, what the total cost of your project is. So I'm not going to go over that in this group. I thought it better to go over that piece of it one-on-one with folks when after projects are identified, because there's so many different, there's so many different ways that it applies. And then depending on the type of project and the credit claim, entities can be reimbursed for up to 30%. Okay. And this is not competitive. So there's not a limit of total federal funds that's going to be applied to this. It is an incentive program that will be funded for projects that you are doing. Okay. There are some basic requirements. So you have to own the property that the renewable energy project is happening on. Or in the case of a car, you have to, because there's an electric vehicle one, you have to own the car. But this means that you can't be leasing or using a power purchase agreement model and be eligible for this elective pay credit. You have to own the property that the project is on. And if the project costs are entirely covered by restricted grant dollars, you cannot claim the elective pay credit. But we'll go over this again in your one-on-one if you're interested in talking more. If you have restricted grant dollars that covers part of your project, you still are eligible for sometimes up to that full 30% of the elective pay credit. Sometimes less than that, but you still might be eligible for the full thing. And then your ability to claim the credit is time bound. So projects placed in service in 2024 are no longer eligible. And then there's a lot more dates we're going to talk through. Okay. So who's eligible? Who are those tax exempt organizations? Local and regional governments. So county government, city government, township government, agencies and instrumentalities of those governments. So public school districts, transportation services, water authorities, municipal utilities. Then community colleges and public universities are eligible. Nonprofits are eligible. Rural electric cooperatives are eligible, and houses of worship are eligible. All right, so not all clean investments are eligible for elective pay. So the ones that we're talking about here are solar installations, geothermal projects, energy storage, EV chargers, and electric vehicles. And then there's a list of some things that are not eligible. So There are a lot more things that are not eligible. So focus on those top five: solar, geothermal, energy storage, EV chargers, and electric cars. Now, let's talk about how it works. I'm going to start that with a little success story here.
While she works on that, I just want to reiterate that this is not a competitive grant. These are entitlements. So if your project qualifies and you don't go through the process to claim that money, you're just leaving entitled money on the table.
Michigan, Elective Pay is helping organizations invest in clean energy and redirect savings toward their communities.
Elective Pay is a new program through the IRS, and it allows entities that have never filed tax before to claim tax credits and get paid actual cash rebates on investments that they've made in clean energy.
Both the Presbyterian Church of Okemos and the Lord of Lords Ministries in Detroit installed solar panels and used Elective Pay to cover part of the cost.
It covers about 30% of the overall funding. So we received $26,000 from the federal government as a direct payment.
Elective Pay helped defray our costs significantly, and we're saving a little over $6,000 a year on our electric bills.
The Michigan Infrastructure Office Technical Assistance Center, or TAC, helps organizations navigate the Elective Pay process, providing guidance on eligibility, filing, and maximizing their returns.
Years ago, I started teaching on environmental stewardship. I'm proactive. I'm all in. We got 26 solar panels. Just to know that we're saving that money and we can use it for other things is phenomenal.
With support from the TAC, more organizations across Michigan can take advantage of Elective Pay and continue investing in their communities, making a lasting impact. Learn more about Elective Pay and how your organization can benefit.
One of the super exciting things about this process for us has been really learning about how many projects were already happening here in Kalamazoo and beyond. There's a lot. We've got about 9 partners so far in Kalamazoo that are doing projects that are eligible for the elective pay credit, or have already done projects that are eligible for the elective pay credit and weren't claiming it. And we've been able to help make that happen. Okay, so here's an example, and this is Jonesboro Elementary School. I stole this example from the elective pay state representative, and they put in a 300 kilowatt solar array. It was placed in service in December 2024. The project cost was $982,000. And look at how much money they got back. That's money that stays in the school to continue to help pay for the $393,000 to continue to help pay for other work that the school is doing. And we know all of these tax exempt organizations are doing work that need that extra money to stay in their organization. So that's pretty significant. And then that is in addition to the savings that you get from the project itself. So the projects are saving energy already, and they're going to save money on everybody's utility bills, or gas bills, fuel bills. And then on top of that, they're keeping this money in their organization. So you see there that the school is saving, $1,600 to $6,500 monthly on their utility bill. That's big stuff. All right, here is an example that KC3 supported. This was one of our first projects that we connected with at Camp Friedenswald in Michigan. They're in Cassopolis, and they put in this 20.7 kilowatt solar array and have EV charger project that was placed in service by April of last year. That project cost $60,000, and they qualified for the full 30% elective pay benefit. And so they finished that project last year in April. We helped them get money back reimbursed on that project this year. Okay. All right, so some common misconceptions. One, these are answers to some common misconceptions. So yes, the elective pay payments are still being processed by the IRS. I think there's a big feeling among everyone everywhere that all of this stuff got canceled, and this is something that does still exist. So the payments are still being processed. New project ID numbers are still being issued. So if you have a project you're thinking about, you want to get going on that project, you can still register a project for the elective pay benefit and get a project ID number. The helpline at the IRS is still providing support for this. Although I haven't tried it, but long wait times are expected. Long wait times are expected, guys, every time you make a phone call to anything like this. Expect to be on the phone for a while. Okay, IRS elective pay specific email inbox is still being answered. The hosted office hours are still taking place. And the elective pay credits, they do still exist. Okay. And that's why we're here. Okay, so into the nitty gritty a little bit. So I'm going to go through the different types of projects and some specifics about them. And then, so tax credit for commercial clean vehicles applies to electric, plug-in hybrid vehicles, and fuel cell electric vehicles. You are eligible for a one-time payment of up to $7,500 or $40,000. There's no limit on the number of vehicles an entity can claim. So if you were a large organization, you wanted to replace a whole fleet, school buses, police cars. I saw an electric mail truck yesterday. It's very strange looking, but it said right across the side of it, electric mail truck is the first one I've seen out driving around. Then vehicles leased from third party, like school buses, that kind of thing can count too. And there's some Lawyers for Good Government notes here. So this is an important piece, y'all. The electric vehicle thing, we're still talking about it because we want to catch anybody if we can, but there's now only available for vehicles that were already purchased by September 30th of 2025. So if you know anyone that or you have purchased a electric vehicle last year that didn't claim this credit, connect with us. Okay. And then just a note, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about this, the definition. So acquire doesn't mean placed in service. So you don't have to have it and be driving it by September 30th. You might have ordered it and paid for it. So that's acquired. Okay. Okay. Maximum credits that can be claimed. 7,500 again, 7,500 or 40,000 or 15% of the purchase price for a plug-in hybrid vehicle or 30% for electric or fuel cell vehicles or the incremental cost of the vehicle. And that's the for 2024 purchases, that's 7,000 for compact plug-in vehicles with a weight rating of less than 14,000 pounds, and then 7,500 for street vehicles other than the plug-in hybrid EVs with a weight rating of less than 14,000 pounds, and 40,000 for all other vehicles with a weight rating of 14,000 pounds or more. And then your little graphic on the right there. So small is less, big is more. Okay, then alternative fuel vehicle refueling property credit, so EV chargers. You can get a one-time payment for, and this is for rural and low-income communities only. And then, but the installer for the EV chargers has to comply with the prevailing wage and apprenticeship rules, and we can, if they want the full credit, and I'm going to talk about what those are. And this is important again, so they have to be placed in service by June 30, 2026. This is another one that we've started, like, it would be tricky to start planning a project right now and get it placed in service by June 30th, 2026. But if somebody's already planning a project, it's already set on its trail towards being placed in service, there's still potential for it to be eligible for this elective pay credit. Okay. Renewable energy projects. So this is for the rest of the stuff: geothermal, HVAC, so ground source heat pumps, solar, wind, energy storage. All of those projects that started construction before 2025 are eligible for the investment tax credit for energy property. The clean electricity investment tax credit, you can claim also for solar, wind, energy storage projects that started construction in 2025 or later. And both of those are a one-time payment. And depending on the intricacies in your project, they could be 6% or 30% of the total project cost before bonus credits. And we'll talk about bonus credits that might be available for these types of projects in just a second. Okay, so these have size ratios. So hold on. The for solar, geothermal, or energy storage projects that are less than 1 megawatt can always claim 30%. For those same types of projects that are greater than or equal to 1 megawatt, could be 6% or 30%. And that's because the larger projects have to comply with that prevailing wage and apprenticeship rules. And again, I'll go over those in just a second. And then the smaller projects are exempt from those same rules. All right. The prevailing wage requirements. There are 4 components. They have to meet prevailing wage specific to the location of the project. So a minimum of 15% of the hours worked must be worked by an apprentice from certified apprenticeship programs. And then they must meet applicable ratio of apprentices to journey workers established by the registered apprenticeship program. And the last is any taxpayer, contractor, or subcontractors with 4+ employees must hire at least 1 apprentice. So those are some, and again, this for projects that are greater than 1 megawatt have to meet all of those if they want the full benefit. Okay. Bonus credits. So there's a couple different types of bonus credits that you can add on to the elective pay credit. And there are a couple of the organizations we're already working with. 2 of them are working on eligibility for these bonus credits. So they are an option for the most part, except for when you're working on a project greater than the 1 megawatt and the domestic content bonus has to be paired with the domestic content. Bonus is, instead of a bonus, it's a penalty. So you can mix and match bonus credits that you want to pursue, and the bonus credit depends on the size of your basic credit, your elective pay credit, that 6% or 30% or anywhere in between. Okay, so the 3 different bonus credits that you can get there's an energy communities bonus credit. So if the location of your project was formerly had fossil fuel infrastructure or is a brownfield location, you could add 10%. So turn that 30, if you get 30%, your 30% could become 40% of your project costs. If there's a bonus credit for domestic content, so the project uses a certain percentage of made in the USA products. And then this is that one that has a disclaimer. So if the project is greater than 1 megawatt and does not meet those requirements, the credit that you're able to get is reduced to 85% of the credit amount in 2025 and 0 in 2026 and beyond. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those. That's called the foreign entity of exchange. And we're going to go through the foreign entity details in just a second. Okay, so that last bonus credit, again, sorry about that, is for low-income communities and small solar wind projects that are less than 5 megawatts. In low-income or tribal communities, you could apply for a bonus credit of 10 or 20% in addition to that 6 or 30% that you are getting from the base elective pay credit. And that one is competitive and capped, so not a guarantee. Okay, what is this prohibitive foreign entity and foreign entity of exchange stuff? So there's 3 categories of restrictions, and this is for projects involving entities and materials from China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea. The tax credit is disallowed if the entity is is itself a prohibited foreign entity, so from one of those prohibited countries. If the taxpayer or entity makes payments, including bond payments, to a foreign entity in any of those countries. And then the third would be if the project uses a certain percentage of materials or components made by companies that are owned and operated in those countries. And we are learning that there's a lot of this is pretty serious. So there's a lot of ways that you can be qualified as a foreign entity organization. An example is like if you have somebody on your board that is not a U.S. national, then you can, and not a U.S. citizen, that can disqualify you. So there's a lot of little tiny details that need to be, you got to fit them all just right. So if a project uses a certain percentage of materials or components made by companies that are owned and operated in any of those countries, then that disqualifies you. And this applies to projects beginning construction in 2026. So some of you may know that there was a rush to complete projects by the end of 2025, and this is why. Then there's the second one there. The IRS issued preliminary regulations on materials assistance in mid-February. So this materials, though this rule was in place, there was no guidance on how that rule was going to work until mid-February. And then if the project is non-compliant, you cannot claim the elective pay credit. This does not apply to the geothermal HVAC systems. Those are eligible until 2035. That's important. There is a certification process that will be, that is the responsibility of the supplier. So the supplier has to get certified to not be using materials that are coming from a foreign entity. Okay. Deadlines. Check the time again. We're doing okay. So wind and solar projects need to begin construction. If you begin construction after July 4th of 2026, they must be placed in service by December 31st of 2027. So it's ideal to begin construction before July 4th. Then you don't need to complete construction by the end of 2027. But both are eligible so long as if you start after July 4 this year, you have to complete your project by the end of next year. If you start before July 4 this year, you just have to follow this continuous construction rule, which means that you're continuing to work on that project to get it done until it's done, and that can apply for up to 4 years. And again, there's no change to the geothermal HVAC or battery storage, you can still claim the investment tax credit through 2035. 9 more years. So the definition of beginning construction for wind and solar projects means that you must begin physical work of a substantial nature at the project site. So in the beginning of these conversations, it was thought that maybe you could put a down payment down and deliver supplies to the site, and that would count as beginning construction. Not so. So the projects, you must begin a substantial amount of physical installation at the project site before, in order to qualify as having begun construction. With the exception of solar projects that are less than 1.5 megawatts. And a lot of folks decided to go ahead and keep their projects under 1.5 megawatts so that they can so that they don't have to worry so much about these dates. And in this case, then you can begin construction by paying a 5% of your total final project costs. So then begin construction means that you, what we thought it would mean for everything, that if you just put down 5% of your total final project cost, then you qualify as having begun construction. And again, that's just for the smaller solar projects, has to be less than 1.5 megawatts in order to not have to have done the substantial project site work. Please ask for clarification if I bumbled through that one a little bit. Please ask for clarification if that didn't make sense. Okay, then a reminder. So there's a few other things that are worth talking about if you're serious about a project. You can combine funding sources, but combining a funding source. So if your part of your project costs are covered by a grant or by a bond, or other credits, you still could be eligible for the elective pay credit. But there's just a lot of variation in how that works. So if 15% of your costs are covered by a grant, that's okay. If 100% of your costs are covered by a grant, that's not okay. And then there's a lot of variation in between there. So if you are thinking about a project and you have grant funds or bonds or other credits that are involved, we will talk that stuff through with you and provide answers individually rather than trying to go through each of those steps would take too long. And then determining your tax year, filing deadline, and registration. Those are also things that we can go through with folks if you have an individual project you're interested in talking about. This is the overall process, is that you would place your project in service. You would complete a pre-registration filing with the IRS 120 days before filing your tax return. Then you would file the tax return, make the elective pay selection by the deadline, and then you receive a check. That sounds simple. There is actually a lot that has to happen along with that. And this is some of it. So in between placing the project in service and completing your filing, pre-registration, you got to identify the eligible project costs. So there are some potential project costs that would not be covered or would not be counted as the in the math of determining that 30% credit. You have to determine your tax year and filing deadline and pre-filing registration date, and gather and keep really good records on your project data and account info so that you have those documents ready for filing. All right. We want to help you do this stuff. If you've got a project that you already finished, that is in process, or you're thinking about doing, we want to meet with you. So connect to us, either tell us now or connect to us via email after this presentation, and we'll set up some time to talk more. And here is the email that you can reach out to connect with us. All right. We got 12 minutes.
Thank you, Jenny.
It's not bad.
I want to add a couple of things here. First off, the electric vehicle chargers are a pretty easy installation. So there's still time to get in under that deadline of July 1st. If you find a contractor and they can just put them in, hook into your existing electric system, probably. The second thing is a megawatt is way more than any of you are going to think about doing. So those restrictions on 1.5 megawatts, unless you've got 100 acres that you want to fill with solar panels, don't worry about it. You're smaller than that.
Yeah, 1.5 megawatts, I think, is like a 10-acre solar array. So if you're not putting in 10 acres, you might be all right. Thank you. Other Dave?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about a time-bound 2024 ineligibility. And I was wondering, what was the deadline for 2024 projects before they became ineligible?
Let me go back and peek at that a minute, Dave.
Because I think Prince of Peace were in that situation.
You've completed a project in you completed
A project in October of 2024, and we put in an application. We had several issues with it, but I'm just trying to figure out what the deadline was.
I believe that I believe that counts as ineligible if it was placed in service in 2024, but we can look into that for you. I can't answer right now whether or not there might be, like, if you placed it in service and you already were in the process of trying to apply for that credit, maybe there's some leeway there. So let's touch base.
That's what I want to know is, I mean, I can't believe if you put it in and it was operational in October of 2024 and you submitted it in November of 2024, it was ineligible. That just means all 2024 projects were ineligible. There's got to be some leeway in those dates.
It would seem like it. So we can ask that question for you. I think they're like, if your project was done in 2024 and you didn't even try to do anything, but
we tried, but it was delayed by the IRS because they said we weren't tax exempt, which was ridiculous.
Right. So I think there might be some hope for you all. I think if you hadn't tried to apply earlier, then maybe not. But I bet let's work.
Yeah, we had a CPA who said at least in his opinion, we put in the application in time, but we missed the deadline because of the IRS mistakes.
Yeah, that seems like we could work that one out for you. So just so you all know, any of these kinds of questions that we're not quite sure about, we meet really regularly with the state coordinator of this program, Cassie. She was in the video for a short moment. And any of the questions, well, two things, any questions we can't answer, we reach out to her, but also she will come meet with us if there's like special strange projects that have some of these complexities that we don't understand. She'll come meet with us. And then there's also, for some projects that are big enough, there's an option to have support from a state accounting service that can actually help with the filing for you. But your project has to be on the larger end of project costs in order to be eligible for that. Okay, other questions? Okay, seeing none, I have some questions for you. I'd love to hear from any of you who are currently involved in a project that might be eligible or thinking about a project that might be eligible, if you'd be willing to share.
Sure. Hi, I'm Stephen with Edison Neighborhood Association. We've engaged to have solar and a battery backup installed. So we're currently in the 10 to 12 weeks out phase of with the consumer's connection and so on and so forth. So yeah, so we're moving right along. Hooray, hurrah.
Thank you, Stephen. Arthur.
Oh, yes. The township has been discussing putting up like a solar array on the township roof, but it's very preliminary. I mean, it's discussions, just the suggestions at this point. So I'm just concerned about, the deadline of June, trying to meet that.
Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, it's very possible. And again, that for a small project like yours, that the only thing you'd have to do by June is put down 5% of your project costs.
But how would that work? We would have to pay in. So how would we pay 5%? I guess.
Well, so if you had all of your project, so yeah, good question. So if you had a project plan you were connected with a solar installer, you decided what you wanted to do, you got everything approved, you're connected with a solar installer, you sign a contract, and you put 5% down on that contract, then you qualify as under construction by that date because of the size of the project I'm assuming that you're doing.
Yes, because it would be relatively small, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
we had to put half down, so I think you'll be good. Um, and that also locked in some rebates for us with our battery and stuff as well. So, you know,
Cool. And that was the solar company required half down, Stephen?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Arthur, what township do you represent?
Chickamine Township in Berrien County.
Cool. Yeah, we'd love to meet and talk more, Arthur.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or project potentials? Nikki?
Yeah, our church was looking at solar panels, but it was told that it needed to put in a whole new electrical box, and that put the price out of range with all the rewiring that would be needed. Does any of this cover that kind of work?
No.
Okay.
But I'm curious, Nikki, if there might be some funding opportunities that could support something like that. There are a couple options that we can help connect you to that might be able to, I'm not sure.
The local utilities are a good source for stuff like that. And well, we in Kalamazoo are in consumers. Arthur, you're in
AP, yeah.
I don't know what they're offering, but they probably have some supportive rebates available too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then there are like there's Michigan Saves is a program that will that offers small interest loans to cover projects, and they know about the elective pay credit, and they will do they could provide a loan that covers that 30% of your costs so that you don't have to pay that up front and wait for it to come back to you. And then there's one more funding source that does the same thing, that is specifically created a program for helping folks access the elective pay credit that will loan you 30% of your costs while you wait to get it back. That's different than the funding you're talking about, Nikki, but I think it's worth looking into that, some other funding opportunities too there for a church. Okay, just a couple more minutes. Toby, you had your hand up.
I was wondering if it's not worth it at all for low-income churches, low-income areas to apply since it's often oversubscribed. Is it still worth it to do it? And is any effort of churches that are better off helping churches in low-income areas?
I think your question is, would it be more valuable to support a church in a low-income area, apply for this and do a solar installation there instead of doing your own solar installation? Is that what you're asking?
That's part of it, yeah.
I think so. I would say both and. So again, both organizations, one in the low-income community and one that's not, would be eligible for 30% of the elective pay. You could apply for a church in a low-income community, you could apply for 10 to 20% in addition. So that that second church would be eligible for 40 to 60% of their project costs reimbursed. So I'd say both. And I'd say it is worth applying for. It looks like one of the churches we're working with right now is applying and looking like it might be they might be eligible, might work.
Toby, I think I detected in your question that you thought the program was oversubscribed or could be. That is not true. It's unlimited. It is not competitive. It's basically tax rebates. So there isn't a worry about taking up somebody else's place in the queue. Everybody can do it.
Except
It
for
was the bonus credits that were
the bonus credit.
subscribed. That's what I was.
Oh, okay.
It's
The low income communities
Right,
bonus
that-
credit does have a limit. Yep.
okay, got it. Thank you. So
Well-
it's definitely still worth it for low income, but they may not be able to get the bonus. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Uh,
But
the
they
other thing I'd like to clarify with this is the role of KCCC is the outreach, the finding people who are interested, and connecting you with the folks at the state who are the technical experts on all of this. So, we're not the ones who can dig into the weeds for you, but we can put you in touch with the folks who can. So don't worry about trying to find the details out of this presentation. There's a lot more details that the state can help with.
We can do flowers and seeds, and then the state can do the roots. That's what we're here for. And to connect you with resources that to help go further. All right, it is 1:03. And I really appreciate all of you coming. Again, connect with us. We want to help make these programs happen and make them happen in a way that keeps the most money in your organization to keep doing the rest of your work.
Thank you, everybody.